The worst thing that can happen to an agency owner is building something that actually works with him inside it, because now you can't leave. And every client, every system, every hire just adds more weight to the thing that you're trapped under. So in this video, I'm going to break down the operating system that I would use if I was rebuilding my agency from scratch, knowing what I know after scaling past 200K per month while cutting my work hours to just 4 per day. Before I get into the phases, I need to address something that trips up almost every agency owner that I talk to, because there's an order to removing yourself from your business, and most people get it completely backwards. The order is delivery first, then growth, then decisions. But most founders want to get rid of sales first. They hate the calls, they're tired of closing, so they hire a salesperson way too early, and it destroys them because now they have someone generating clients they can't actually fulfill without being personally involved in every account. And you have to systemize both of these before you can hand off decisions. If you skip a step, the whole thing collapses, which is exactly why most agency owners end up working more hours than before they actually had a team. So everything I'm about to walk through follows this sequence: delivery, growth, decisions. Now, the other thing worth understanding is that your role as a founder changes completely as you move through these stages. And if you don't change with it, you become the bottleneck by default. In the early stage, you're the engine. Everything runs through you because it has to. You don't have the budget to hire, and you need to understand how every part of the business actually works before you hand any of it off. This is typically 0 to 30K per month, depending on your pricing and service type. And at this stage, the grind becomes the tax you pay for learning your own business. The problem is most agency owners never leave this stage. They keep being the engine even when they're making enough to hire, because they've convinced themselves that nobody else can do it as well as them, or they're scared to let go of control, or they've never built anything systematic enough for someone else to step into. The next stage is what I call the architect. This is roughly 30 to 80K a month, and your job shifts from doing the work to designing how the work gets done. You're creating the blueprint that everyone else is to follow. You're building the systems instead of being the one that executes the tasks. And at this stage, you should be mostly out of delivery, if not completely out. You're not the one running campaigns. You're not the one managing client accounts. You've got people doing that, and you've built enough processes around it so they can operate without checking in on you with every decision. This brings me to the final stage of owner. This is 80K plus per month. And when you stop being the architect and start being the person who occasionally reviews the blueprints, and instead of designing systems, you're now overseeing the people who design the systems for you. So your job becomes making a handful of decisions that actually change the trajectory of the business and nothing else. And even for me, it took longer than it should have, because I made every mistake I'm about to help you avoid. Because chances are you're watching this because you've already done the basics. You've got clients, you niche down, you raised your prices. So I want to address one thing that becomes a serious problem later if you get it wrong early. Listen, we have clients paying us over $20,000 a month for Google Ads alone. This was only possible because we productized around a specific outcome for a specific type of client. Most agency owners in the early stage take any client who can pay. It doesn't matter if they have different industries, deliverables, or expectations. And that work is fine when you're doing everything yourself because you can adapt on the fly, but it stops the moment you try to hand it off. Because now, instead of doing custom work yourself, you're teaching other people to do custom work that changes shape every single time. And that, my friends, is a trap you're setting yourself into 18 months from now when you're wondering why your team can't operate without you approving every single thing. The goal in this phase isn't just hitting a revenue number. It's about building revenue from a model you can actually repeat. One service, one client type, and one outcome you can deliver constantly without reinventing your process every single month. Think about your current service mix. If you're offering 5 different things to 5 different types of clients, that's 5 micro agencies stacked on top of each other. And every single one of them requires you to be involved because nothing is standardized enough for someone else to own. This is where most agency owners stall out, because they keep applying phase 1 thinking to a phase 2 problem. Phase 1 rewards hustle, you outwork the competition, you close deals, you deliver results, and you make yourself available for everything. But phase 2 requires the opposite. You stop being the founder, grinding through the work, and start being an operator, designing how the work gets done. And most people never make this switch because the habits that got them to 30 or 40K feel like the same habits that should get them to 100K, but they're not. They're the habits that will keep you stuck exactly where you are while working twice as hard. The first system you need to build is delivery, and there's a specific sequence to making it work without you. Step 1 is standardization, meaning your service has to be as close to copy and paste as possible. That doesn't mean you can't do great work or customize things for clients. It means the core of what you deliver follows the same process so that someone else other than you can execute it. For instance, we run Google Ads for e-commerce brands. The strategy might vary based on the account, but the workflow is identical, meaning a new media buyer can step into any account and know exactly what to do because the process doesn't change based on who the client is. If your service delivery is bespoke every single time, you're going to have an extremely hard time stepping away from delivery. Not impossible, okay, but you're making this 10 times harder than it needs to be. Step 2 is measurement. Once the service is standardized, you can set specific KPIs that apply across every client. We know that for a client at a certain price point, our target CPA should fall within a certain range. We know what our creative hit should be. We know what metrics indicate an account to be healthy versus one that needs intervention. These benchmarks let you track whether your team is meeting the same standards you are meeting. Without these, you have no way to evaluate performance except by reviewing every piece of work yourself, which defeats the entire purpose of building a team. Now, step 3 is documentation. Only after you've standardized and measured do you create SOPs. Most agencies try to write documentation first, but there's no point documenting something if you can't then measure whether someone followed it correctly. Your SOP should be detailed enough that a competent person can step in and produce the same results you would without needing to ask you questions every day. If your documentation takes a week of verbal explanation to make sense, that's a sign that it needs some work. Now, before we get into step 4, I've kept this pretty basic up until this point, but I've started a bit of an inner circle for agency owners doing anywhere upwards of 20, 30K plus per month. I'll leave the link in the description. There's going to be a quick application form, and then I think it's like $27 to join just to keep the group as high quality as possible. Again, links in the description if you're interested in applying. Now, let's get to step 4, which is automation, which may be kind of surprising to you because it comes last, not first. I know AI is exciting and everyone wants to automate everything immediately, but automation only works if you're automating a process that's already proven and standardized. Automating a broken process just gives you broken results faster. We've automated onboarding, parts of our creative analysis, our reporting, and we only did that after the manual version was working consistently. The goal of automation isn't to save time at any cost. It's to remove human error from processes that are already producing results. Step 5 is management. Once all these things are in place, you bring someone in to run it. The temptation is to hire a manager first and have them figure everything out, but nobody understands the micro nuances of your business like you do. You build the system, you prove it works, and then you hand it off to someone who can maintain it. The best managers are usually the people you promote from within. Someone who's been doing the work, understands the standards, and has grown inside the company. They already know how everything operates because they've been operating it. Now, the other thing I would fix is pricing. Most agencies run on monthly retainers, and monthly retainers are fine, but they're a terrible model once you're past the foundation stage because you're essentially charging for time, not for value. And when you charge for time, your revenue is always capped by how much time you can sell. We charge a percentage of ad spend tied to a performance floor. Our clients give us a target return on ad spend, meaning as long as they get a certain amount of dollars back for the dollars that we put inside the ad platform, we can keep spending more and more and more money. And the more we scale, the more we bill. This does two things. It aligns our incentives with the client's actual goals, and it removes the ceiling on what we can earn from each account. Some agency owners hear this and get nervous, starting to think, what if you don't hit the target? Or what if your client's business has problems you can't control? But if you're confident enough in your delivery, you tie your compensation to the results. That's the problem you need to solve, not the pricing model. I walk into sales calls offering this with full confidence because I know what our backend can do. If you can't say the same, fix your operations before you worry about growth. The last piece of this phase is systemizing your proof. Your experience means nothing to someone who's never worked with you unless you can demonstrate it in a way that lands. Every win needs to become a documented asset. Case studies with real numbers, testimonials that speak to outcomes, before and after comparisons that make value obvious without you having to explain it or oversell yourself. And unfortunately, most agencies treat this as a nice to have. But this is the foundation to every sales conversation you'll have from this point forward. And it becomes critical when you eventually hand off sales to someone else. They need proof of assets they can point to because they don't have your track record to lean on. Once your delivery is systemized, you can focus then on growth. And the approach here is counterintuitive. Most agency owners think scaling means more channels, more outreach methods, more content platforms. But that's phase 1 thinking applied to a phase 3 problem. The growth systems that actually work is what I call rule of 1. You focus on one outbound channel, one inbound channel, and one paid channel. For outbound, pick one that's actually working: emails, DMs, cold calls, whatever. Master that single channel instead of spreading yourself across 4 methods that all produce mediocre results. Now for inbound, pick one content platform and actually commit to it. LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, whatever fits your niche, but just one. And let that sink in, because agency owners I see winning are not posting everywhere and getting traction nowhere. They're focusing on dominating a single platform instead of spreading themselves too thin. For paid, it's usually Meta. Google can work too, but it tends to be expensive for agency services. Meta lets you scale predictably once you have the creative and targeting dialed in, and then you add partnerships. Referral partners who serve the same clients with complementary services, like software partners in your niche. Client referral programs that incentivize your existing accounts to send you business. This entire growth system can be run by one business development lead, one SDR handling outreach, and one closer taking calls. And there are agencies doing 6 figures a month with exactly this structure without a massive sales team. The key is that your SDR can work across multiple channels. They can handle outbound, but they can also follow up on inbound leads from content. The closer takes all the qualified calls regardless of where they came from. And your paid ads are managed by your existing media buying team since you're already running ads for clients. But most agencies overcomplicate this. They hire too many salespeople too early, spread themselves across too many channels, and end up with a bloated growth operation that produces worse results than a lean team focused on running a system. By this point, you've got a delivery system systemized and growth predictable. But that doesn't mean you're not the bottleneck anymore. You still are. It's just that you move from day-to-day work to decisions. Because every escalation routes to you, every big call requires your input, and your team has their systems but don't have the authority to run them independently. This is the hardest part for most founders because it requires letting go of control. And your control is what got you here in the first place. Now, the first move is hiring a closer who can run your sales process and close deals using the positioning and proof that you've already built. This is hard because sales always feels personal. You build these relationships, you know the pitch better than anyone else. But if your sales process requires you to be in the room, you have a founder doing sales. And that has the same ceiling as a founder doing delivery. So document everything from positioning to objection handling to price conversation. Turn your instincts into a system someone else can execute. And though it feels scary at first, it frees your attention up to the highest leverage work at this stage, which is building infrastructure that replaces your judgment. And this, my friends, is where AI changes the game, but not in the way most people talk about it. Most agency owners actually use AI just as a tool. Write copy faster, generate reports, and save a few hours here and there. I mean, that's fine, but real leverage is built when AI replaces the things that used to require your direct involvement. We built a system that pulls every conversation from our clients' Slack channels and compresses it into one daily report. For instance, I don't read Slack anymore. It's muted. I don't check threads. I don't get pinged on questions. I don't spend my day scanning for problems. I read one summary at the end of the day that tells me exactly what needs my attention and what doesn't. That alone saves me 2 to 3 hours daily. And more importantly, it saves me the mental drain of constant interruption. Because when you're context switching every 10 minutes, you never get above the weeds long enough to see where the business is actually heading. Before this system existed, if I wanted to know what was happening with a client, I had to dig through messages or get on a call with my team. Now, that information comes to me already filtered and organized in a format I can actually use. That's the difference between AI as a feature and AI as infrastructure. Now, the other thing that makes stepping back possible is having complete clarity on your numbers. And I mean complete. We use what I call a CEO dashboard. It's a single sheet that tracks 2 to 5 KPIs for each department. So metrics for delivery, metrics for growth, metrics for operations, all color-coded so I can glance at it and immediately know what's green, what's amber, and what's red. Green means we're hitting targets, amber means there's work to do, and red means there's something that needs my immediate attention. This dashboard feeds into a live P&L that shows exactly where the money is coming in and where the money's coming out. I can see profit margins, I can see lifetime value, I can see acquisition costs all updated in real time. The reason this matters for removing yourself is psychological. Most founders can't step away because they don't actually trust things are running properly without them, right? They don't have visibility into the actual performance of the business, so they stay involved in everything just to make sure nothing's breaking. It's completely normal. But when you have a dashboard that shows you exactly how every part of the business is performing, the anxiety disappears. So you don't need to micromanage because you can see the numbers. If something's off, it shows up on the dashboard. If everything's green, just leave it alone. Now, the final piece is having the right people in place to actually run things. The structure is simpler than most people think. You need a head of delivery who owns the entire fulfillment side and a head of growth who owns sales, marketing, and partnerships. A head of operation normally sits between these departments and keeps everything coordinated. These 3 people report to either you or a managing director if you brought one in. Everyone else reports to them. The org chart doesn't need to be complicated. If you need a flow chart to explain who needs to report to who, then you've already overcomplicated it. And once this is in place, you can genuinely step away without the business suffering for it. What's hard to describe is how different the work feels once you get past this. I spend about 4 hours a day on the business now, which go towards thinking about direction and making the handful of decisions that actually change the outcomes. Because you can't think clearly about them when you're drained from managing 100 small problems that someone else could have handled. Most people start an agency because they want freedom. Then they build something that gives them less freedom than a job would have. Now, the good news I have for you is that it's fixable. Every operator goes through this. The question is whether you stay there or architect your way out. And if you want to see exactly how I architected my way out, the systems, the structures, the decisions that took me stuck at 40K a month to free at 200K per month, that's what this channel is for. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos like this. But if you want more than just a strategy, things like operating systems, framework, and other resources that we use to run a 200K plus per month agency without me in the day-to-day, I put all of that inside a community for agency owners who are serious about building something that runs without them. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.